Imagine stepping onto the ice knowing 20,000 fans aren't waiting for your goals, they're waiting for your fights. That was Ty Domi's world. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't fast, and shit didn't light up the scoreboard. But when the gloves came off, arenas exploded. Some cheered like he was a hero, others booed like he was a villain, but nobody looked away. For 16 years, Domi survived in the NHL on toughness alone. In a league of superstars, he carved his place with grit, blood, and an unshakable refusal to back down. But his journey almost never happened. Before the fame, before the chaos, Ty was just a small kid from Windsor, Ontario. Born in 1969 to hard-working Albanian parents, he battled dyslexia and always felt the odds were against him. The rink became his escape, but he didn't even lace up for organized hockey until age 10, years behind other kids. It didn't matter. He'd already toughened himself in soccer and baseball, and when he found hockey, it was like destiny. The game was rough, fast, and fearless, just like him. With the Peterborough Pates, he showed flashes of skill, 22 goals, 43 points. But what really stood out? Nearly 300 penalty minutes in a season. Ty wasn't just playing hockey, he was declaring war on anyone who doubted him. That fire caught Toronto's eye. The Maple Leafs drafted him in 1988, his hometown team. It should have been a dream start. Instead, he got just 2 games and somehow racked up 42 penalty minutes in that tiny window. Toronto wasn't ready, but New York was. Traded to the Rangers, he unleashed the chaos fans craved. In 42 games, he racked up 246 penalty minutes, turning every fight into must-see TV. Ty Domi wasn't just another player anymore, he was a legend in the making. And this was only the beginning. By the early 90s, Ty Domi wasn't just a hockey player, he was a spectacle. The moment his skates hit the ice, fans leaned forward, waiting for chaos. And in New York, it came fast. One night against the Flyers, he squared off with feared enforcer Dave Brown, 6'5" of pure menace. Domi, barely 5'8", went toe-to-toe in a brutal, bloody war that made his name echo across the league. From that moment, everyone knew Ty Domi feared no one. The NHL noticed too, and not always kindly. Suspensions and fines piled up. He was even banned for sucker punching Ulf Samuelsson, a move that sparked headlines and controversy. Critics called him reckless. Fans called him fearless. Either way, they couldn't stop watching. What made him different was loyalty. He didn't fight for show, he fought for teammates, for respect, for the crest on his chest. With Domi on your side, you felt untouchable. That loyalty made him a coach's headache, but also a teammate's shield. Then in 1992, Toronto came calling again. This time, Domi was ready. His return split the fan base. Some saw him as a goon, others as the spark the Leafs desperately needed. Either way, ticket sales exploded and every game felt like a powder keg, and he delivered. His clashes with Bob Probert became instant legends, not just fights, but events. 2 titans trading blows, pride on the line, with fans still debating who really won. But the truth? Winning didn't matter, the spectacle did. Through it all, Domi proved he wasn't just a fighter, he was an entertainer. He gave fans moments they'd never forget. And in Toronto, something began to shift. Beneath the fists and fury, Ty Domi was starting to win people's hearts. When Ty Domi returned to Toronto, he quickly became more than a player, he became a symbol. In a city obsessed with hockey, where every game feels like a referendum, Domi's presence was electric. At first, skeptics mocked him. He's just a goon, they said, but night after night, he proved them wrong. Not with goals, but with grit. He gave the Leafs something that couldn't be measured in stats: heart. The Maple Leafs of the 90s were scrappy underdogs, always fighting above their weight, and Domi embodied that spirit. Every punch, every battle was like a message to the crowd. I'm not backing down, and neither should we. His legendary clashes with Bob Probert sealed that reputation. Probert was the NHL's heavyweight king, feared by everyone, but Domi stood toe-to-toe with him again and again. The arena shook as fans roared, not because Domi always won, but because he refused to quit. That fearlessness turned doubters into believers. In Toronto, where stars are often ripped apart by the press, Domi was different. Fans saw themselves in him. He wasn't the most skilled, he wasn't the biggest, but he worked, he fought, and he never let the city down. In a blue-collar town, that made him their guy. And he wasn't only about fists. He chipped in with key goals, delivered bone-rattling hits, and brought energy every shift. He became a veteran voice in the locker room, a player who could flip momentum in seconds. Then came 2001, the moment that cemented his legend. During a playoff game against New Jersey, a furious Devils fan leaned over the glass to scream at Domi in the penalty box. Suddenly, the glass collapsed, and the fan fell right into the box. Cameras caught everything, Domi holding him back, smirking in disbelief. The clip went viral before viral even existed. Critics fumed. But in Toronto, fans loved it. It was pure Domi. Chaotic, unpredictable, unforgettable. By then, Ty Domi wasn't just a hockey player. He was a character, a cult hero, the people's champion. Kids wore his jersey, fans debated his fights, and every move he made was front-page news. But while his fists built his legend, what nobody expected was that Domi's story was about to shift. Because behind the chaos, there was a side of him the public hadn't seen yet, the human one. By the early 2000s, Ty Domi wasn't just Toronto's muscle, he was a leader. Younger players looked up to him, coaches trusted him. He had earned respect the hard way, and now he was passing that lesson on. Stand tall, no matter the odds. Even late in his career, he kept surprising people. In 2000, he scored 13 goals, a career high. No one confused him with Matt Sundin, but it proved he was more than fists. He had worked to sharpen his game, refusing to be one-dimensional. But what truly set him apart was his bond with the city. In Toronto, hockey isn't a sport, it's a religion. And Domi lived it with the fans. He signed autographs long after practice, chatted with kids outside the arena, and wore the maple leaf like it meant everything. The fans adored him because he gave back as much as he got. Off the ice, another side of him emerged. At home, he wasn't the fighter, he was a father. His son Max often watched from the stands, dreaming of following in his footsteps. That bond revealed the man behind the bruises, a warrior on the ice, a dad at heart. Of course, the chaos never vanished. In 2001, he delivered a brutal elbow to Scott Niedermayer, leaving him unconscious. The NHL suspended him for the rest of the playoffs. Critics blasted him. Fans defended him. It was classic Domi, walking the thin line between hero and villain. But through every high and low, his resilience never cracked. Year after year, he endured punishment most players wouldn't dare face, and he kept standing, kept fighting, kept wearing that maple leaf with pride. By the mid-2000s, Ty Domi wasn't just an enforcer, he was a Toronto icon. Fans chanted his name. Kids dreamed of being as fearless as him. In a city that demanded warriors, Ty Domi became one of the greatest. But even warriors can't fight time. And as his career wound down, Ty faced a new battle, not against an opponent but against the question, who was he without the gloves? Every fighter has a last round. For Ty Domi, that moment came in the mid-2000s. The NHL was changing. Fewer fights, faster players, a different game. The writing was on the wall, but fading quietly. That wasn't Ty. He kept bringing the same fire that defined him. He fought anyone who challenged him. He threw himself into every shift like it was his last, and fans still packed arenas just to see him. Because Domi wasn't just a player, he was part of the show. By 2005-06, he had played over 1,000 male games, something almost nobody thought possible. A kid who started hockey late, who wasn't supposed to make it, had proved that heart and toughness could take you further than talent alone. That final season was emotional. Every city knew they might be seeing him for the last time. In Toronto, the bond was unshakable. When he hit the ice, the crowd roared. When he dropped the gloves, the building shook. It wasn't just about fights anymore. It was about saying goodbye to a warrior who had given everything to his team and his city. On September 19, 2006, Ty Domi retired. 16 seasons, 3 teams, nearly 3,500 penalty minutes. One of the wildest careers in NHL history came to an end. Asked if he had regrets, Ty smiled. No. He had done it his way. For a player who was never supposed to last, that was victory enough. At his press conference, the fighter finally let his guard down. He admitted he'd missed the role, the battles, the energy. But it was time to move on, to be with his family, to take off the armor he had worn for so long. For a moment, the enforcer looked more like a father reflecting on the journey of a lifetime. For Toronto fans, his departure left a hole. The lease would continue, but there would never be another Ty Domi. His toughness, loyalty, and showmanship were one of a kind. Even today, when fans debate the most unforgettable characters in hockey, his name is always near the top. And though his career on the ice was over, his story wasn't finished. Life after hockey would bring new challenges. And perhaps his proudest legacy of all, watching his son carry on the Domi name. When Ty Domi left the NHL in 2006, he walked away from more than just the fights and the penalty minutes. He walked away from an identity he had carried for 16 years. For so long, he was the enforcer, the tough guy who stood toe-to-toe with giants. But once the skates were off, he had to face a question every athlete eventually asks, who am I now? At first, Ty stayed in the spotlight. He appeared on TV, spoke at events, and even wrote a memoir that showed a side of him few had ever seen. Fans discovered he wasn't just fists and toughness. He was thoughtful, reflective, and open about his struggles. From growing up with dyslexia to proving everyone wrong who said he wouldn't make it, he had always been more than a fighter. He was a survivor. But his most important role after hockey wasn't in front of cameras, it was at home. Ty Domi, the fighter, became Ty Domi, the father. He poured himself into raising his 3 kids, especially his son Max, who dreamed of reaching the NHL too. Max wanted to follow his dad's path, but in his own way, with speed and skill instead of fists. Tai supported him through every step, cheering from the stands, coaching him, and teaching him that toughness isn't only about fighting. Sometimes, it's about never giving up. When Max finally made it to the NHL wearing his own jersey, Tai was there in the crowd, beaming with pride. For him, watching his son succeed meant more than any fight he'd ever won. It was the ultimate victory. Even today, long after his last game, Tai Domi's name still echoes in hockey. Fans remember his battles with Bob Probert, the night a fan fell into his penalty box, and the way he brought fire to every single shift. Younger fans hear his story passed down like folklore, proof that you don't have to score goals to be unforgettable. Sometimes, heart and courage are enough. Tai Domi lived a story no one expected. He wasn't supposed to make it. He wasn't supposed to last. But he did. And in the end, his legacy wasn't just about the fights. It was about loyalty, toughness, and the reminder that even the smallest guy can have the biggest fight. Tai Domi will always be remembered as one of the NHL's fiercest enforcers. But to those who knew him best, his greatest title was simpler and stronger: a father, a teammate, and a man who never backed down from anything life threw his way.